ខ្ញុំបាទហិនសុភាពសូមជម្រាបសួរទស្សនិកជនទាំងអស់ដែលកំពុងតាមដានទស្សនាកម្មវិធីរបស់ DGacademy បាទកម្មវិធីរបស់ DG Leader នៃ DGacademy ថ្ងៃនេះសូមនាំយកនៅប្រធានបទពាក់ព័ន្ធជាមួយនឹងការដឹកនាំបាទការដឹកនាំនៅក្នុងយុគសម័យថ្មីហើយដែលមានវាគ្មិនកិត្តិយសគឺលោក Dupuis មកជាប្រធាននាយកប្រតិបត្តិនៃ Randstad Japan បាទ Randstad គឺជាក្រុមហ៊ុនសកលដ៏ធំមួយបាទដែលមានសាខារាប់សិបប្រទេសនៅក្នុងពិភពលោកហើយ Randstad Japan គឺជាទីផ្សារដ៏ធំមួយរបស់ Randstad ហើយលោក Paul គឺធ្លាប់បំពេញការងារជាប្រធាននាយកប្រតិបត្តិនៃ Randstad India ហើយលោកទើបតែបានមកបំពេញការងារនៅ Randstad Japan នៅប្រទេសជប៉ុនរយៈពេលប្រហែលខែកន្លងមកនេះបាទហើយនៅក្នុងថ្ងៃនេះគឺជាកិត្តិយសណាស់ដែលខ្ញុំបាទសូមជជែកជាមួយលោកពាក់ព័ន្ធជាមួយនឹងការដឹកនាំជាពិសេសក្នុង model ដឹកនាំមួយដែលលោកបានប្រើគេហៅថា E5 បាទឬដែលមាន 5E បាទលោកប្រើ E5 នេះនៅក្នុងសភៅមួយក្បាលដែលលោកបាននិពន្ធផ្ទាល់របស់លោកដោយផ្ទាល់ដៃរបស់លោកគឺសភៅនិយាយអំពីការដឹកនាំ E5 Movement Leadership ដែលคล้ายជាសភៅដែលលក់ដាច់បាទនៅក្នុងបញ្ជីរបស់ New York Times បាទហើយថ្មីនេះក៏ជាប់ចំណាត់ថ្នាក់នៅក្នុង Amazon នៅប្រទេសជប៉ុនផងដែរបាទហើយដូច្នេះលោកអ្នកនឹងបានទទួលនឹងបានយល់នៅតើ E5 នេះមានន័យយ៉ាងម៉េចខ្លះបាទដែលលោក Paul លោកនឹងបកស្រាយពន្យល់បាទពាក់ព័ន្ធជាមួយនឹងការដឹកនាំហើយខ្ញុំជឿថាជារឿងមានប្រយោជន៍ណាស់សម្រាប់ការរៀនសូត្រដែលចេញពីប្រធាននាយកប្រតិបត្តិដ៏ធំមួយដែលបានដឹកនាំក្រុមហ៊ុនរយៈពេលដែលកន្លងមកនេះជាពិសេសលោកបាននៅបំពេញការងារនៅក្រៅប្រទេសបាទចេញពីក្រោយពីចេញពីប្រទេសកាណាដារយៈពេល31ឆ្នាំកន្លងមកនេះបាទ Good evening everyone. Today I'm honored to bring Mr. Paul Dupuis, CEO of Randstad Japan, who will be talking on leadership in the new world. And he's the author of the best-selling book, E5 Movement Leadership. And he's been leading himself, in Randstad India as a CEO. He has transformed the business into a profitable one. And now he's coming back to Japan, where he has been living for quite many years. So he will share his experience and how he has grown himself up to the leadership level. And so I will speak English with him. He is now residing in Japan and working in Japan. So let's start the business today. Yes, so what a big change. You have moved from India to Japan.
Yeah, it's been quite a busy few months since we returned, but I must say my heart is still in India, but I'm very happy to be back in Japan in my new challenge.
Yeah, after a very long year in India, and you enjoy a lot of travel up there and also meeting your people over there. Yeah. So it must be really a memorable place for you.
Yeah, the 4 years in India were amazing in so many ways. I think learning as a leader, leading such a large organization across a huge country in a very different culture, and also during COVID, which was the extra challenge. But I think I really grew a lot as a leader, but also as a person. It was a really great experience.
Yeah. Okay. So Andrew, Paul, actually, as you have moved from India to Japan, one of the largest market for your industry, and especially in HR service industry. And so actually in the region, you have moved between, from Canada to Cambodia to Japan, and then to India and back to Japan again. So would you mind give a brief about your travel across these countries and continents?
Let me give you I'll call it the short version of 31 years, the 31-year story. In fact, September 5th, 1990 will be my 31st anniversary of leaving Canada. I left Canada when I was 22 years old with a backpack and my life savings of about $300 Canadian. It's not worth very much at the time. And I had a dream to go to Japan to do the martial arts, do karate. And I was very interested in karate and the martial arts. So this was before the internet. So I saved up my money, went to the library, got a book about Japan, and I arrived with a backpack in Osaka in 1990. Nowhere to stay, not much money in my pocket, didn't speak any Japanese. And so I slept on a park bench all alone in Osaka in 1990. And that's where my adventure in Asia began, was on the park bench. And I thought I would stay 6 months in Asia, but I ended up staying in and out about 31 years. So I lived in Japan for 5 years. I went back to Canada, to Vancouver on the west coast of Canada. I did my graduate studies, and I actually became a licensed teacher. I became a high school teacher in British Columbia in Canada.
Yeah.
Back to Japan, married a girl from Japan. We've got 2 boys. One is 23 and one is 19. I guess they're men now, not boys. And they're bigger than me. They're bilingual, Japanese, English, really global citizens. And I've worked and lived around the world, of course, in Japan, but I also was based in Singapore for some time, where I was head of Asia for a Japanese recruiting company. And I was actually doing acquisitions, M&A, as well as exploring new markets for startup, including Indonesia, of course, Cambodia, Thailand, Vietnam, Hong Kong, China, and so on. So most of my adult life or career has been in Asia. And of course, most recently, I was in India. So I was based in Japan with Randstad. And in 2017, I departed for quite an adventure in India. I was the CEO of Randstad in India. We had 55,000 people that worked for us on contract.
A lot of people.
50 offices across the country, in a very diverse country, of course. So that was a great experience. It was a turnaround story. So it was really about taking a business that was struggling and making it perform and also accelerate. And so I then came back to Japan, this time as CEO of Randstad in Japan. And I've been here officially since July 1st in this role here in Japan.
Well, thank you very much for sharing your leadership journey. You know, you start adopting the model of your father, where he walked the talk, he focused on behavior, and he's a role model. And then back in sport, you know, you play ice hockey, and then you adopt it, you learn from it, how to build a teamwork, how to get up when you fall down, and all these very important lessons. You set the discipline, you develop yourself, how to become stronger and stronger in the team, and also how you can contribute to the team. It's very interesting. And so then how would you develop your leadership, you know, after leaving all this, you know, understanding all this concept, and then you applied it in sport, and then so how you transform yourself to become a leader, and how you got to the stage where you become an author as well, you know, a CEO and author?
So for me, leadership has been a journey since I was a young boy. And I think, you know, I'm often asked the question, who is your role model as a leader or mentor? I mean, I've had many leaders that I worked with over the years, that I observed and that I studied. But I'd have to say I'd start with my father, because when you break it down, what is leadership? I mean, leadership is really about behavior. It's about how you walk the talk. And my dad was really a man who walked the talk. He lived what he spoke. And so he was a very well-known guy in the community because he had a big heart. He was always doing something good for the world, connecting people and making people feel good about themselves along the way. He was able to create movements in the community to bring people together. He was a high school teacher. In fact, the same high school I went to in my hometown. But, you know, he was a guy that I would identify as someone who really had those key leadership skills of being committed to a cause and a purpose, and again, walking the talk. But, you know, along the way, I played a lot of sports. I was an ice hockey player, so I learned a lot of lessons about leadership on the ice and off the ice. Sports are a wonderful thing, regardless of the sport you play, whether it's, you know, a team sport like soccer or cricket, or individual sport like tennis or golf or even badminton. You can learn so many lessons, which then become life skills. And I learned a lot from ice hockey. And I learned the importance of teamwork, of course, because once...
Oh, so you play ice hockey, right?
Yeah, it's my favorite sport.
Right. I see.
Yeah, there's not much ice hockey in Cambodia, but in Canada, it's our passion. For many of us, that's the sport we grew up playing or watching. So I absolutely have so many amazing memories of playing ice hockey and learning lessons, the pain of losing, the joy of winning, the importance of always getting back up when you get knocked down, the importance of always standing back up. Sometimes you need to ask for help when it's time to get back up. There's a number of things in ice hockey. We say, if you keep moving your legs, good things happen. So a lot of these lessons I learned on the ice apply in my role as a leader.
It's amazing, Paul, that you wrote a book and it became a very good book. And, I check it and everywhere I saw about E5 movement, it came to my attention. And I wonder, how did you come up with the word E and 5? Why not 6 or why not letter D or any other letter? You have many letters to come up with. And I saw that E5 movement become a kind of a model in leadership as well. And would you mind sharing this?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Thank you, Sophie, for mentioning it. I must tell you first, I never imagined that I would write a book. I never kind of saw myself as an author. I do like to write, but writing a book is a whole different challenge. So let me back up a little bit. I was actually studying in London Business School back in 2018. And the course I was taking was a Randstad, my company-sponsored course. And it was about transformative leadership, leading transformation in an organization. And they assigned me a coach during the program. And at one point, the coach and I had a one-on-one session. And the coach asked me a very important question. And it's the same question I would ask to you and to everyone who's watching today. What is exceptional leadership? What does the exceptional leader look like? How does he or she behave? What are the characteristics of the exceptional leader? And it's a really interesting question because it's a big question. Huh? And so I started to think about it. And then, of course, we discussed it and we talked about it. And after about 20 minutes, he said, "Hey, Paul, you need to write a book." And that was the first time anyone said that to me in my life. And his version was, I had some pretty clear ideas about leadership. I had an answer to the question because I was thinking about it and studying it for so long. I've been a passionate student of leadership. And so I kind of forgot about it and I came back to India. And then someone else I respect very much, a Japanese author who's a friend of mine, Ken Honda, also said, "Paul, you need to write a book." And then I read a quote from Richard Branson where he said, "If you've had an interesting life, it's your duty to write a book and share it with the world." Well, I mean, we've all had an interesting life. Sopip, you too. You've had a very interesting life. So every one of us must write a book at one point in our life. So I decided,
yeah, I think so.
It's time to write the book. So that's how it began. That's how it began. But the book itself, and actually I have it here, it's called The E5 Movement. And the book itself was in my head, but to get it from your head, into the pages is a whole different challenge. Huh? And I didn't know where to start, but I made one decision. I made a commitment that I would write the book. And as we know, when you want to achieve a big goal, it's important to have a commitment. So I committed every Saturday morning from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. that I would sit down and focus on writing the book. So can you imagine the very first day? This was January 2019. I sat down on my balcony in Bangor with my computer and my cup of coffee, and I started to type away. And I was typing all my ideas. And then I read it and I thought, it's not very good. So I hit delete, 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 backspace, delete. 2 hours, Sophie, 2 hours of typing. Yeah. When I was finished, I had nothing. It was a white page. And I realized,
so then you start again.
Then you start again. And what is the lesson there? It's the same as sports, huh? We just heard earlier. You fall down, you learn lessons, you get back up, you start again. So anyway, then I started to think, how can I do this? So I went to Google. Google has all the answers, right? So I went to Google. Yeah. How do you write a book? And there's so many websites about how to write a book. So then I finally said, okay, I like to talk about leadership. Why don't I record it? So I took my phone and I recorded a lot of short voice memos with my ideas about leadership and stories about leadership. I recorded about 100 short voice clips. Then I went back.
A lot.
Yeah. Then I went back and I listened to them and I started to write the book. The book took me about 7 months to write once I got into my flow. And that was every Saturday morning for 2 hours. In the final month, I was working all night, early mornings and so on, but finally getting it done and editing. So it took about 7 to 8 months to write it. Yeah.
Oh, great. So, you need really strong commitment and discipline to be able to write a book. I used to try once, but actually now I haven't finished it. I just made it like 10%, 20% of the total content that I expect. Actually, I was writing on different subject, not on leadership. But amazing that I learned from this experience as well. Starting to write a book, like in your case, that you got people to encourage you to write a book. And I met the same, similar story that my friend encouraged me to write a book as well. But I haven't finished. Just the fact that the difference is I haven't finished. And so, your teacher told you about what is the exceptional leadership is all about. Exceptional leadership is all about, and then you're going to write a book. And you mentioned about E5. So why the letter E come in, and why number 5 come in? Why you call that? And then finally you get E5 movement. So what's behind that?
Thank you. It's a great question. This was an evolution of my ideas on leadership, and it's something that naturally evolved over many, many years of being a leader, studying leadership. First of all, the fact that there are 5 E's or 5 words, let's say, or ingredients of effective leadership is a coincidence that they're all starting with E. It's just a coincidence they all start with E. It happened to be. 5 as well. Well, when I really broke it down, there's actually about 25 E's that you can come up with that are not included in my 5 E's, but they are part of one of the E's, like empathy, for example. A lot of people talk about empathy. Well, actually, empathy is included in the 4th E, enable, leader as enabler. And I can talk about that in a moment. So it began with this idea that I'm going to formulate a model of effective leadership that is easy to follow, that is easy to remember, and makes sense, and is based on actual practice. And so here's what I observed. So people, I'll walk you through the 5 E's. Okay.
Yeah.
So first,
thank you.
The first E is where all game changers begin. All exceptional leadership starts with envision. That's about creating a vision which touches the hearts and the minds of the people on the team. Whether you're in a small organization, business, or whether you're working in a large organization, or you're leading an MPO or a sports team, it doesn't really matter. If you're bringing people together to a cause, it begins with envision. Now, here's where a lot of leaders get it wrong, as I've observed. Envision is not about the what. Envision is about the why. And I think especially over the past year and a half with COVID, we've all been reminded as leaders about the importance of why. Why is the purpose? What is the tactical part of the purpose? So first we start with why. When you get the why right, the how is easy. That's a famous quote from Jim Rohn, right? He said, when the why is clear, the how is easy. So first beginning with the why. And the why needs to be about not outcomes. It's not about, in business, for example, it's not about revenue and profit. That is an outcome. That's not the why. The why needs to be something more powerful. And it could be about making a positive impact on the world. It could be about, becoming a game changer, becoming the most admired, most trusted, and so on and so on. But it needs to be something that really touches the heart and the mind. Envision. The second E is express. Express is about, you've got your vision, you've created it, you've thought about it long and hard, and it touches the heart and the mind. Now you need to open the door, go outside, and tell the world about it. Express. In our current world, like you and I right now, we're sitting in front of a computer. And we're communicating with each other. We're actually expressing our ideas. We need to leverage what we call the omni-channel, right? So marketers talk about the omni-channel, where you have your message, but you need to use different channels to get it there. And in this case, you can use Zoom, you can use a webinar, you can use all the different social media channels, town halls, conversations by the coffee machine, and so on. So express is a very important part of bringing the vision to life. And by the way, that's the time to ask for advice. For me, I speak to my marketing team, my PR and communications team. They help me with the express stage, the second E. The third E is excite. Okay, so you've got this compelling vision. You're expressing it using all of the omni channels, and people are starting to lean in. They're starting to show interest. They're even starting to use language like, when can we start, Paul? When can we bring this to life? How can I play a role? I want to join in. They start to raise their hand and they really want to take action. That's a really important moment of truth. There's excitement, there's a buzz. Then the fourth E comes, and this is a really important moment for every leader on their journey, is enable. And I would tell you that in my own leadership journey, this is the stage I'm at right now. I'm really focused on enabling people to shine. In other words, creating a platform, creating an arena, an environment where everyone can be the best version of themselves. So that's a key characteristic of an effective, or even better, an exceptional leader, is a leader who helps everyone be the best version of themselves, helps them shine. And finally, the fifth E, well, I think until the end of time, Sopip, it doesn't matter if you are a business leader or coach of a sports team or whatever you do, the final measurement of exceptional leadership will be to execute. In other words, execute means bring that vision, that compelling vision, bring it to life. Bring it to life for measurable impact. So that's the 50. So it's envision, express, excite, enable, execute.
Yeah, thank you very much, Paul, for briefing on the E5. And very interesting that you start with all these 5E, and from envision up to execution, which is the last one, and I think a really important one to make sure that people really execute the vision that we created. And so with all these 5E, how would you embed this 5E5 movement in your team? In the case that you led the big entity in Japan and also in India.
Yeah, well, let me talk about the 5 E's in the framework of India. Okay, so when I arrived in India, here was the challenge. We had a business that was struggling for 8 years. It was not accelerating. In fact, the ship was shaking, even to the point where it was close to sinking. We were in the red, no profit. But more importantly, there was no direction. So it was an organization in trouble. At the same time, it had a lot of potential. And we knew that if we could get it on course, on track, watch out, possibilities were endless. And this is a very common scenario. It's a turnaround management or a turnaround leadership challenge. So the first thing to do was to take the pulse of the organization, really understand what the current situation was, to understand how the people were feeling, who the people are, of course, the cultures. And then from there, to create a vision that would bring people together, that would rally them together towards a cause. And it's not about outcomes, because if you think about it, an organization that has been struggling for a long time, the outcomes, therefore, have been poor. And so people lose confidence. If you're constantly not achieving your goals, your budget, your targets, and so on, people lose confidence. And loss of confidence leads to weak results, more weak results. Increasing confidence leads to better results. It's an interesting black and white relationship. So the first thing to do was to come up with a vision that really rallied people together. And it needed to be bold. And this was an organization that always talked about numbers first. And I said at the very beginning, we're going to stop talking about numbers at the beginning of the story. We're going to put the numbers at the end. So every meeting cannot begin with numbers. We're going to talk about our purpose. And our purpose was clear: to be the most trusted and admired company in our industry in India, and to be the leading company in the world of Randstad in 38 countries. Now, think about that for a moment. Here is an organization that's deep in the red, going nowhere, struggling, not admired, not trusted because of performance, of course, and within 38 countries in the world of Randstad was ranked almost at the bottom, okay? So here we are, we're here and we're saying we're gonna go here. Now, the exceptional leaders that I've studied always start with a big, bold vision, which is not about numbers, about purpose. And of course, the final piece of the vision was, we're gonna become the most trusted, most admired, the center of excellence, and we're gonna do it with great values, with great people, and we're gonna celebrate every step of the way. That story touched everybody. People who were lacking confidence suddenly started to feel good. They thought, we can do this, let's do this. So the excite part came into place. So I started with the vision. Then I got on the airplane and I traveled across the four corners of the country. I had a lot of road shows, as I call them, road shows, standing on the floor of the office in 50 offices across the country, presenting the same story, having a lot of coffee meetings, a lot of lunch meetings in India, a lot of chai tea, right? Yes. And then eventually the message started to trickle down. My fellow leaders were also sharing the same message. Now we had the power of many expressing the same message to our colleagues. People started to get excited. Then when we had small milestones, just small successes and achievements, we celebrated. This was an organization that hadn't celebrated in a very long time. They can't remember the last time they celebrated. So we started to celebrate. The buzz is creating, the wheels are moving. People are raising their hand, they want to be part of it. Then of course, the leadership team as a whole, I expected them to become enablers. In other words, don't pick up the hammer, teach others how to use the hammer and let them do it and let them learn and make mistakes. So that was different for a lot of leaders. It's a tough adjustment, but they did it. And then over time, we were able to execute. It took about 14 months from zero to get out of the red into the black. Then from there, we continued to accelerate. And even though I'm in Japan now, I still hear from our colleagues in India, and I understand that they continue to raise the bar, they continue to accelerate, and they're having fun along the way. So, India was a great example of how the 5 E's are absolutely effective. And of course, I'm applying them now here in Japan.
Well, thank you very much for sharing this very important experience and also how you have turned around the company, from being in the red and toward making profit. And it's really amazing, how you make it happen in one of the biggest market for Randstad. And then now you are back to Japan, where you, you got rooted, as I would say, because when you left your country and then you got into Japan, and amazing thing happened in your career. From being a backpacker sleeping on the bench of the garden, and then you move up to the top ladder in the business world. And so what would you say the difference between working in India, leading Randstad India, and then leading Randstad Japan? What are the difference that you see, and how did you make things happen in Japan, and you start rolling out and in any key strategic priority that you are working on?
It gets more difficult the bigger the organization is. If you're running a small business, which is one office, one room. Before COVID, everyone was in the room. Now it's on the computer or virtual. But if everyone is in a room, you can see everyone. You can feel the pulse. You can take the temperature of the room. You know how people are feeling. Yeah. As soon as you have 2 offices, 10 offices, 75 offices, it gets more and more difficult for the leader to really be in touch. And so that's the challenge in both India and Japan. So one of the things I do often is what I call pulse checks. Just like you and I are having a chat right now, I have regular meetings, sometimes 3 or 4 in a day, one-on-one sessions with people across the organization, across functions and businesses and so on, across locations and also across levels, right to the very front line of the organization. I'm on a mission right now to meet 100 people in the organization, one-to-one. I started July 1st. I'm now at 58 and I'm heading towards 100, and I'm learning amazing things. By the way, I'm there to listen. As the old saying goes, 2 ears and 1 mouth. These are opportunities for me to learn and listen. And I find out why people are working at Randstad in Japan. I find out why they stay, what they love about the company, but what's missing as well. I also find out where we need to improve. It's very revealing. If you ask 100 people the same questions, one by one, you get some incredible insights. So I've been doing that. Now, the challenge, of course, in taking an organization forward when you're working in this virtual environment is even bigger, because we were only limited to using technology to connect. So I'm doing my best to connect as much as possible, to listen, to also make promises of action every time I meet someone, and then take action on that promise. So I call it POA, promise of action. So every meeting I have with someone, I make a promise of action, and then I make sure we actually take action on it. To answer your question about differences, so there's a big cultural difference between India and Japan. I think probably in the world, the other extreme ends, you got Japan on one end of the world, and you got India on the other, in many, many ways. Huh? I would say in India, because it's a very young country, the huge growing population, average age of the population is 29 years old. It's very young and getting younger. It's a very eager, ambitious country. Culturally, it's also a very fast-moving country. People move quickly. And in Japan, you have an opposite situation. You have an aging society, shrinking population, declining birth rate, of course, and the average age is 43. So, and you also have a culture in Japan, which is more about thinking, planning, and then execution. So I like to look at it like this. In Japan, people use their heads first, and next they use their hands and their legs. In India, people use their hands and legs first, and then use their head next. In other words, they move first, think next. In Japan, people think first, move next. Now, it's not to say one is better than the other. I think they're both good, because the agility and the speed of India is absolutely amazing. Huh? But the quality focus of Japan is also quite amazing. So to combine those two, the agility and the speed with the focus on quality that Japan has, that would be a powerful combination. Yeah.
Very good stuff that you share regarding the how you transform, how you are working hard to develop people in Japan. And it's really, as now you want to develop people, you want to help them to grow as a leader, as a great leader. And this is really, really amazing. And I think that you enjoy doing it. And also your people are really happy that you are back and helping them grow. And in this current world where everyone, we really want to grow up, and we need a leader like you to help us to grow. And although with the pandemic like this, you still commit to communicate with them to ensure that they really work up to their best to being a leader. And okay, and I have one more question. In the current world where there are unexpected change, as you see recently, and also many changes are happening and without our foreseen knowledge. And sometimes, suddenly you have to, you have to change as well to adapt to it. And of course, it's really matter to everyone in the world, in the business world, in the public world. So we have to adapt to everything that are happening that may restrict us from doing something. And but we have to navigate through it. And so in your knowledge of the world, and also knowledge of the market that you have been working on, and also your insights as a leader. And so what do you see? What do you see the change that is that you expect?
We already had a pretty compelling vision, but I had to add my flavor to the vision. Let me give you something very important. So we had a vision which was built around 4 pillars, and one of those pillars was growth. And growth was about business growth, and that's always important. To your point earlier, at the end of the day, I mentioned about execute. I will be measured on delivering on the top line and bottom line, by the way. Okay. So I need to deliver on a top line growth as well as a bottom line profitability. But that's not all I'm measured on. There are other elements, of course, engagement and so on. In order to get there, we need to talk about growth, but not only business growth. And so I've added on a bit of my own vision, which is when we talk about growth, let's talk about the growth of our people. The word growth in business typically means top line and profit, right? So what I'm now expressing to the people in the organization is it's not only about that. That is important. That is critical. We must deliver on that. But growth is equally about our people. How are we going to make every single person grow and shine? And how do we do that? We provide opportunities, learning and development opportunities. So now we're getting ready to invest in our people, learning and development opportunities, creating new programs, learning and development, partnering with different institutions to offer learning and development programs for our people. So that's one example of where we're making a slight change to the vision, making it, I think, stronger in the process.
Thank you, Mike Paul, for sharing this very interesting story and also insight on the how the journey and in India and also in Japan. And I mean, in terms of number, India is a really big in terms of people that are working there, and in Japan, one of the biggest market under Randstad. And so actually, I have another question regarding the leadership. You know, in the current world where a lot of change, you know, you got the pandemic, COVID-19 pandemic, and then also the change of technology and a lot of change that you may not foresee that is happening, and we some change we don't expect. So what would you leadership will be like in this kind of new world where there's a lot of change like this?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I don't think we've ever experienced this degree of change in our careers. I mean, there have been lots of crises through our career. I think we've seen so many crises locally and globally, of course, right? But what we're experiencing here with COVID is unprecedented in the modern era. It's really touched every corner of the planet and every corner of our lives. So here's what I've learned. I've learned a lot of things through COVID, but one of the things is, as a leader, we always need to hold a firm grip on our why. What is your why as a leader? What is your purpose as a leader? And that needs to be crystal clear, because that purpose will take you forward, both in good times and in bad. It's like a guiding light, the North Star. So we should never compromise on the why. We can compromise on the what. We can pivot when it's necessary to pivot. I can tell you, before COVID, we were accelerating very quickly in our business. So when I met with colleagues, we were talking a lot about how we were going to accelerate strategic plans. We were celebrating our business successes and so on. The moment COVID hit, all of that became second priority, and we took our people and put them at the very top, and the safety of our people, the engagement of our people, the physical and mental health of our people. Yeah. But the why never changed, huh? The why never changed. Throughout all of that bad storm that came, the why never changes. So I think that's one lesson, and that's true moving forward in the new world. Purpose. What is your purpose as a leader? Why do you exist as a leader? What is your mission, your vision? Hold firm to that. That's one. In the new world of work, I think more than ever, as leaders, we need to become enablers. Back to the 4th E. Our role now is not to be the one who knows all the answers. Those days are gone. Leader as guru, leader as the one who knows, I think those days are gone. The leader is the one who helps others know, helps them find the answer, helps others find the solution, helps others become the best version of themselves. That's our role as leader in the new world. We also know that even when COVID eventually settles down, we don't know if it will ever disappear. It might be with us for a very, very long time. But as we start to reopen offices, as the economy starts to accelerate and wheels are moving, we'll move into a new world. It's not a new normal in my definition. I think it's a new world. So we move into this new world, right? And what does that mean? Well, it means that probably we'll never see offices 100% full at 100% occupancy. This hybrid way of working we're talking about is fluid, right? Some people will choose to work home. Some will come into the office. Some will come 2 days. Some will come 3 days. Some will come not at all. They're happy to work from home. So the leader then needs to figure out how to lead teams forward in that new way of working. But again, as I said earlier, even if it's a new way of working, the why does not change. The how might change, the what might change, but the why never changes.
Interesting. Thank you very much, Paul, for sharing this. And why is it important? So it fits within your E5 movement leadership, where you start with envision, looking for the why, and make sure that it's still there, although you need to change the what you will do or how you will do, but the North Star is still there, as you mentioned it. So this is very important and very good learning tool, I think, that people can learn from it. And you make it very simple to catch it with the E5, so everyone can remember, envision, express, excite, enable, and execute, the last one of the E5 movement. So this is a very good lesson learned today, and I hope that all the audience watching this show will adopt it and try to implement it as strong as they can, and make sure that it's really benefit their organization and their life.
Thank you so much. What a nice summary, Salpip. I appreciate it very much, and I'm glad that you said it's simple, because when I wrote the book, by the way, for anyone who's thinking about writing a book, this is maybe if I can offer some advice from my experience.
Yes, yeah.
Start with the why. Start with the why. I created a one-page, very simple overview of why I was writing the book, and then two things: what do I want the book to be, and what do I want the book not to be? So I wanted the book to be simple, to your words, thank you, easy to understand, easy to digest. I wanted it to be a story, a book of stories, a conversation with the reader. And so that was my simple goal. What I didn't want it to be was, I didn't want it to be complicated. I didn't want it to be a textbook for an MBA program that would be full of diagrams and algorithms, models. And I wanted it also not to be theoretical. I wanted it to be practical, based on real life experience. So a light read, but hopefully meaningful and impactful. Yeah. I should also mention, Salpip, that when I was in Bangor, just before I left to come to Japan in, I guess, March, April this year, I recorded the audiobook version. So I went to a studio. Yeah, I went to a studio. This was a great experience, by the way. I went to a studio, and I think I spent about 30 hours in total. I think I went like 10 or 12 times. And it's very humbling to take your book and have to read it in a studio, with the microphone. You're reading every word. And as I was reading the book, I kept thinking, I want to change that. I want to change that. So, but what a great experience reading the book aloud. It's on Amazon now around the world. And I have to say that I'm very surprised today, Amazon Japan, it's ranked number 4 as a bestseller in the audiobooks.
Oh, great. Congratulations.
Yeah. Well,
really, I think it's really interesting book.
Thank you so much. And the reason I mention this is because I think it's also for anyone else who's maybe studying English, for example, audiobooks, and not only my book, but audiobooks are a great way to learn something while also practicing your English. So I recommend people check out audiobooks. It's becoming more and more popular now, especially in this new world. And I didn't realize that so many people like audiobooks. So another great experience.
Yeah, audio is really now really attractive for people. They can work or they can do something else while listening to the audio.
Yeah, like your friend, the runner, runners and people in the gym, people who are driving their car, on the train, wherever, bus, whatever, they have it on and they're listening, and you can listen a little bit at a time as well. So I'm getting a lot of messages from around the world of people who are listening to the audiobook. And again, I was very surprised that so many people like audiobooks. So by all means.
Really amazing, you managed to write a very good book, and also now you have recorded the audiobook. So really, a very big contribution to people who want to acquire leadership to improve their life and their organization.
Thank you. Well, that was my mission. I think at this stage of my journey, I'm 53 years old now, 53 years young. But I think this is the stage where it's really about helping others shine. Of course, when others are successful, it becomes my success as well. And that's great. That's a nice virtuous circle, I would say, or a cycle. But I'm really committed now to doing that, to helping people shine, become the best version of themselves. That's what gets me up in the morning now. And that's one of my key whys, my purpose as a leader.
Very clear, from being as a professional, from being a leader, and up to your clear mission when, you end up writing the book and the audio to finish your mission, toward your mission. Not finished, but maybe you have another book to write, I think, in the next
working on it right now. Yeah. Working on it now, yeah. And you too, right, Solpeep? I know you said 30%, so you've come a long way. The hardest part is to start, right? Hardest part is to start.
Okay, thank you, Mike Paul, for your time, and I hope to talk to you later in in next talk. Especially I want to bring all this idea and also leadership lesson for the young generation to learn and also to adopt it. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Solpeep.
So I wish you have a very good health and safe in the current environment, and all the best to you and your staff and family.
All the best to you, your loved ones, and I look forward to visiting you in Cambodia one day soon. You know I love Cambodia.
Thank you, Mike Paul. It's the place that you visit, that you were working here before in Posat province, as I remember.
Many times. I will be there again when it's safe. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you. And you have a great day as well. Thank you, Solpeep. Bye now.